Hi, good morning, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Very excited to have another session, another round of session talking about the digitization. The very interesting topic that we are picking this week is around the document digitization. Before we jump into the complete flow and understand intricacy of the digitization, how easy, or as we claim, do it yourself. Uh, Let me take you through the Silotech, uh, possibly like the credentials of the company Silotech that we're talking about. As you can see, we are ISO certified to 27001 as well as 9001, and recently been apprised with CMMI level 3. Uh, if we claim ourselves as a technology-driven transformation for enterprises, and the if you notice, we are more majorly headquartered in US, with operations in India, Japan, and Kenya. That's how we serve the global audiences, global customers. A lot of development and innovation happening at our end. Apart from the different ERPs that we serve, we are majorly focused on the automotive, industrial manufacturing, electronics, high-tech engineering, equipment manufacturing, and the financials. Simultaneously, solutions and services very strong on the digitization or transformation side of it, be it the process or the transaction or the decision or the adoption part of it. Industry 4.0, we have executed a couple of interesting projects for various customers. Accounts payable automation, the test automation, we have been doing a couple of webinars in the past few months. Data sciences and the integrations, a couple of very essential as on date platforms and IPs that we carry, including the Industry 4.0 frameworks, the AI/ML framework, a robotic RPA process expertise that we carry, on-premise cloud adoption with respect to the data lakes and the big data. ExactTax is one of the our products where we file your tax returns as well as reconcile them. Intelligent data capture, the robotic OCR, very influential tool when it comes to data transformation that we're talking about, digital transformation. So this is something on this part of it. Before I jump, I'll just we have with us Mr. Satish Pelluru, who has been working on the innovation side of it for Silotech and leads the team of analytics and the data decisions. And this particular session is actually, we thought like we'll bring in, like, from an organization data document standpoint, how critical are they and how essential are they, like when you convert a document into a data digital form, how exactly it translates into a workflow or the decision making, or how exactly the adoption happens. So before we jump into that part, I'll request the all the people who have joined in this session, like, please do share your messages, questions, whatever it may be, like with respect to this topic, and make it more interactive for us, so that like we can always respond back immediately. Maybe at the end we can have a very dedicated Q&A session, because this is very interesting, be it any industry, manufacturing, finance, energy, oil and gas. Wherever there is a document, there is a digitization opportunity over there. And if you look at the agenda, we just keep it very simple, initial 5 steps for understanding side of it. So coming back, just not wasting more time talking about different stuff, like let me introduce Satish Pelluru. He has had like more than 15 years of experience in the digitization world, and very strong when it comes to technology adoption, and as well as the important part is structuring the technology to serve a purpose, which is very essential as on date, because the way adoption and the evolution is happening, it's very essential. Satish, to you actually. Yeah.
Thank you, Kartik. Good morning and good evening, everyone. So today we are going to discuss about the digitization of the document, as Kartik mentioned about to the various industries, how the digitization is important. So we want to go through about how, in a five-step manner, how we can digitize the documents, and from the source to the target, how we are going to navigate as part of an architecture. And as a small example of the workflow which we are going to discuss today, and various use cases which we want to talk about where the digitalization will be useful. These are all the points which we are going to discuss today. And we would like, as Kartik mentioned, as a interactive session, this is going to be, and we want to interact with everyone based on the questions which we want to discuss further, and based on each doubt or any questions which you have. Further, we want to discuss and elaborate how we can do that, and a separate demo session which we can plan based on the questions which you have. Yes, Kartik. Yeah.
Yep. So talking about the essential part, Satish, just want to understand how do we understand, how do we take by do it yourself DIY concept when it comes to these documents? How do you put that thing in a perspective actually?
So how we are planning to do right now is, as you just mentioned about as the first step about the configure. So most of the times, right now the OCR from past so many years, which is available in the market, but OCR only does the data extraction part. Once the data is extracted, how you are going to streamline the data based on the needs which you are going to have. See, something like the entire market, most of the times we have ERPs and other database, which is become the structured database, which we call it as. And rest of the area, let's say around 60 to 80%, depends on the industry and the companies which they are going to use, is going to be unstructured data. So how this unstructured data, which we are going to make it as a structured, which is going to be an important, that is actually which we are planning with the help of this five-step process, how we do unstructured data to a structured data in a step-by-step manner. These steps are it's only one time as to discuss, but once you are inside the system, you are just only inputting the data as a file, and you are getting the output in the desired format where you want to be. It can be a ERP, it can be, yeah, well, based on the
Yep.
output of
Yep.
the target
Yep,
which.
yep.
So
So see the concept of DIY. How we understand is there should not be a dependency on the third party, as well as like the backend technology should be very evolutionary, as well as a lot of learning should be there in the system, so that not every time a technical expertise is needed to sit down and work on those documents. Right, Satish.
absolutely. So, as you just mentioned about the five steps of a DOI, is something like when I receive a document. So, is it further? Most of the times, in the current situation of the financial documents, where we are having a problem is everybody will be doing it PDF very straightforward. So, if I'm receiving a PDF document, PDF documents are straightforward. Everybody can export it, and they are able to get the data. How about if you are getting the data in the images, or even if the documents have the tables? That's where the complex part is actually right now. So if you have a table based data, so regular OCRs normally cannot extract the data as it is in a structured format if you have the data in the table format. So with the help of these steps, which we are going with our models on its own, it will land when you are going to input the data, which one time actually which you are going to configure, automatically you are going to get the output as a structured way. And we have multiple models, and we are providing to the users in an easy way how you can train yourself. We don't need to come to the developers particularly. That is become an important thing most of the times in the normally in the organizations. What they do is we will train the model every time when you have a new data is available, the new formats are available. So we want to remove the dependency from the developers, so that an organization, once they take the tool, they can do it on themselves rather than coming back to the
Right.
developers to train the model.
Right. Right. Rather than saying like getting into a development cycle, or again, I'll say like it should be a tool based where you can say I can configure and classify and extract automatically, right?
Absolutely. So
Right.
that's what one of the important point which you put it as a classify. So another point as a classify which we need to bring it up is how you are going to classify the documents once you have multiple documents which are available in a folder. Let's say I just wanted to take a common example for the documentation which we are talking
Invoices,
like is invoices.
invoices, yeah.
So invoices. So when we have a multiple documents in one folder, let's say for example, we're taking it as a simple example to get an idea. I have 100 vendors invoices which are available in one folder, and I apply these algorithms or the models which we have right now. How you are going to classify or how you are going to identify which vendor belongs to which document? And sometimes even at a critical part right now, which we faced recently with one of the uh, use case is in a single PDF also there can be a multiple invoices from the different vendors. So that's possible because if we are scanning and providing it as a PDF, that is also possible. So that point of time, we are going how we are going to train ourselves, how we are going to classify the documents depends on the vendors, which is going to be a very crucial point and important to extract the data. Yes,
Right,
Kartik.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So that's yeah.
So yes, like this is where what we call it the. If you just look at the more details that we have shared over here, so it's like a tool should be there where, like, say, I got a problem, I got a new document, a new format, or a few clicks I do, and it's configured. Like, I'll say, like, let's not talk about so much of a extraterritorial AI that, like, you put a document and it gets read automatically. It's there, but we're yet not there yet. But having said that, like, it should be easy, so that, like, I don't take a load on myself that, like, hey, I need to configure, or I don't need to hire a additional resource to actually configure this thing. Couple of clicks and I should be able to modify or change things, and it should be easy for me. The way, say, if I'm making a image, drag drop kind of thing, right? So that's one side of it.
Absolutely.
And as Satish mentioned, the classification part, very interesting, because classification, if I understand, it should be based on the tags and the text content that we are reading from those documents. So based on that thing, it should classify. And classification is very essential, because you need to, because there can be multiple different types of documents coming in. The extraction part, the accuracy comes into play. Validation, very essential, because it's like garbage in, garbage out. What's the point you pulling out a garbage and then you're trying to work on it? So the validation of the data is very essential. You have to say, like, validation could be, say, it could be saying whether it's a digital or whether it's a date format, or it could be some, say, when it comes to ERP or enterprise applications, we need to validate the data. And unless we validate it, it cannot fall part of a workflow. That's very essential. So validation is very essential. And this is where what we talk is, like, those models come into play, because all these, while things are different, validation, we want to see more learning, more intelligence from the system that we want, rather than just dumping a piece over there and say, hey, just do me a 2 plus 2 equal to 4, right? And then the last
Absolutely.
one, as Satish was mentioning, delivering is more of like how it's integrating with the processes, because the data that is coming out should not be stale or sitting over there, and some action needs to be done manually. Now, if you are saying an automation, so the delivery has to happen in a format which is readable to the other applications, or the next whichever is there in the workflow.
Absolutely, Kartik. Yeah, you brought up one of the important point in the previous slide about the validation. So we validate, as you just mentioned about to the ERPs. When it comes to the a simple example of a PO, if it is a PO based invoices, definitely you need a validation. Without validation, you cannot push further the data to the ERPs. If it is a non-PO, absolutely yes. People will not, system will not be knowing what is an amount and everything. You can always push into the ERP. So we maintain the flag actually inside our model. When you are, which when we train the model in such a way that if the total in the invoice is not accurate, when we extract it, automatically we do the flag and we do the notification to the users. okay, something going wrong. It can be depends on the type of the invoice and whether if it is an image is a problem. If it is a PDF, we will not have any problem normally. So that way we validate. Yeah, yes, Kartik.
Yep. Satish.
Yeah, this is one of the 5-step process which we are doing. How exactly, which describes in this slide. So, as a first one is an input. So we normally we call it as where exactly the source of the data. It can be an email, it can be an FTP folder, or it can be you can upload using your mobiles, or it can be any cloud. It can be any place, something like a Google Cloud or S3 Drive, or even the Dropbox, or some wherever the source is. What we will try to do is we take the file from the source location. The file type can be anything. Uh, as an example, which we mentioned, it can be any image like a PNG or JPEG or TIFF file, and a normal system generated documents like a PDF. We take the file types of this kind of a formats. From there, we extract the data using the AI and ML techniques which we developed. So one of the important thing in the part of an extraction which we do is sometimes the documents are skewing, de-skewing, which we need to do. There will be some noise actually in the documents. So we do all those adjustments, and automatically we do as a pre-processing, which we take care of all those de-skew as well as noise clearance. This always happens when it comes to the images. When it is a PDF, these problems will not be there. So we take care of all those things by part of the our AI and ML. And further, we extract the data, and again back our the validation which we discussed. We validate the data based on the source document, and we provide the flags, and we have a multiple highlights actually which we maintain. If the validation, different color coding which we normally maintain. Once we are done with that, then we send the data to the output. So the output can be any place. It can be an ERP, it can be a CSV file, which if you want, or it can be a JSON format, or it can be an API. So how the target which we want to integrate, based on that we integrate and we provide the service.
Right, right, right.
Uh,
Very
and as
interesting.
a small folder which we maintained as an exception, in case if based on the accuracy as a point, if at all we are not going to extract based on the quality of the image, we move the files to the exception folder.
Yes, yes. That's very essential. Like not every document will have a happy flow. So you need to have that exception folder available all the time. Yes. So I'll say like I'll say like we didn't get very technical into this particular part. Like, but yes, as I said, like the preprocessor is very essential because you have to clean up the image and make sure like you pull the right information because and the validation also plays a very critical role because if you see European customers, they have say comma and decimal. They have a different interpretation from the American, right? So I'll say like that
Absolutely.
kind of learning, that kind of logic you have to put in. Then as well as like if things are not clear, you need to understand. See, the thing is accuracy is whichever the term that you use is very essential, a very important aspect of this particular processing because you cannot the confidence on the extraction matters based on the accuracy that you're offering and you need to see that learning is continuous all the time from the machine learning part of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, every path is not a happy path some point of time when you are dealing with the documentation.
Right, right. The other essential part, what I'll bring in based because my experience with the solutions is like this is just a tool that we're talking about. Think from your organization standpoint. There is a document over there on your table. Simple. The it goes is why is that document not digitized? If I digitize that document, just think about it. If I digitize that document, there is a source from where the document is coming. There is a destination where this document will be going post you attend to it. So your whatever the task you attending to it will get automated. The thing is from the source where it is coming, you need to integrate that. part. So there has to be a capability integration with the source so that it flows in automatically from the input. Those sources flows in automatically, translate data, gets as extracted to the desired format, and then it gets as an input. The output gets as an input to the next flow. So having said that, the workflow has to be continuous. That's where we can call it automation, because when you say automation, we don't want it to be visible in front of our eye. Rather, a back end operation should happen. So there are we will see, like, there are we didn't put so this is very interesting, because I don't need to have a technical knowledge or saying like what kind of learning is it. But yes, I need to be impressed whenever I see that, like, last time the mistake that happened has been learned automatically. I guess I get very impressed without an effort from my end. That's what I want to see when it comes to this part of it. And the other things that I have noticed is, like, there are a couple of documents. What we noticed is there are some overlaying challenges. Like, there is some overlaying content on one or another, which for a normal human eye itself is little tough. I'll say obviously a bot can also will have its own struggle, right?
Absolutely. So as you just mentioned about last point as a bot, so the difference between the bot and this kind of a artificial intelligence which we have developed the tools is something like a bot is actually replicating the human efforts, and further you are sending it for verification. Whereas what we are trying to do is we are actually defining what needs to be done exactly rather than the extraction part. If any small changes, bot may stop. Whereas if it is a small change, at least it will say there is an error, I'm not able to extract, but at least the partial extraction will happen using this kind of a safety.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. So another version of the same the workflow that we talk from the architecture standpoint. Uh, I'll say, like,
absolutely.
yep,
So
yep.
this one is something like as we just mentioned about the vendor classification of the different types of documents. So we're just mentioning as a color coding how a different documents which we normally classify. Once we classify the documents, how exactly we are going to extract the data. So and one of the important feature which we are doing it here is auto capture method. So, standard documents which we are having, we are defining our own set of keywords, and we are giving a free hands to the users to add their own keywords also. Say, for example, a typical example of invoice again to say for I normally there are 10 to 15 keywords in the invoice. If I want to extract, I can always go in the beginning of the invoice configuration itself. I can add all the 15 keywords as a auto capture. You don't need to configure it because as a part of an auto capture, once you load the invoice using an auto capture, those 15 fields will be coming in as an output. So if those auto capture table may not work, that point of time we normally provide, as you're seeing in the bottom, some kind of a cropping technique which you are introducing. The fields which you don't have a keyword facility to add, you just go and crop it automatically. That data will be provided as an output. So this is just a
So
small example illustrate from the previous tutorial.
so Satish, like, looking at this part, like when you classification using AI ML, and then you're training, and then there is auto capture, and then using ML algorithms, you are learning how heavy this tool could be.
Uh, the tool is not much heavy. It's only a very small tool in terms of the size of the tool. If you are looking into, it's in MBs only. Even I will not say more than 100 MB. It the size of the tool is going to be your documents only tomorrow. The processing and everything, it happens in seconds, kind of a thing. Less than a minute, kind of a thing. We normally process every document, and as it hosted on the cloud, yeah, it's not heavy. For the user, always feel like I'm getting it as in in a couple of not a couple of seconds, in 10 to 15 seconds less than that, I am getting my document data.
Right, right. Great, great, great. So, yep. So yeah, very interesting one. The use cases, which I'll select, there could be numerous use cases, but this is something based on our experiences. We're just categorizing them. Before we get into the use cases, Satish, like I just want to have get a small this thing from you. Like even the RPS could do this, right?
Yeah, RPS always can do this kind of same whatever we are doing. So the only small change with the RPA, and this is as I just mentioned, you need to train an RPA developer, and RPA developer need to come and do the model training. How exactly? So how we are enabled the tool is you don't need any computer. I'll use the word this kind of any computer literate can use our tool, because we are just providing a interface in such a way we can train them in less than a 1 hour, and he can go and take the tool and configure on it. Whereas
Right,
if you
right,
into the RPA, you need an RPA developer to come into the picture, and he has to configure as per your document. Whereas our tool is a web user interface, and we are just only saying load the document and go there and crop it what document field which you want, and select it and just click on the finish button, and you can just see what fields you configured on the left side and the right side, which you can just see these further what you want to configure. So
right.
anybody who can use a mouse, in other way I can just say, in a Windows, like we have a snipping tool, correct? A person how you use the snipping tool the same way he can play with the document, whereas an RPA you need a developer.
Right, right. Yep, yes, I totally agree with that. Like, there are their own limitations. A third party RPA will always be a third party, but a tool like this will never be a third party, but it will be your tool. That's a
Absolutely.
better way of putting it. But yes, like the use cases could be numerous. As I said, like wherever there is a document, there is an opportunity of for digitizing it. The moment you digitize a document and you have a workflow around it, it opens up an opportunity for a transformation, as well as like since it's a document, it's a repetitive document, there is a learning available over there. Based on the learning, there are multiple, it opens up a lot of multiple possibilities. So on the financial side, which we came across, the invoices, I'll say the easiest one to catch, invoices like the purchase invoices, as well as the cost invoices that we're looking at, which are very much big headache for the finance side of it. The contracts again could be the different set of documents which are very much straightforward, where we can read them. Then when it comes to the manufacturing, there are a lot of different documents that are still there, because the tracking sheets, the traveler sheets, the route sheets, and the quality reports, they're still getting generated. Though there is a reason for that, because from the compliance standpoint, you have to generate them. But yes, I'll say it should not end over there. Even if you are storing those documents in the hard copy, the content of the document can always go ahead, right? And with the help of
Absolutely.
this tool, what happens is you don't need to actually sit down and integrate the two applications. Rather, this can be a mode or a model in which it just flows in. Procurement side, very interesting one. Like when you are working with multiple vendors working on different ERPs or different applications, what happens is the format that comes in, it can be a different way. So you cannot, there are big and small vendors. The big guys, you cannot go and influence them. The small guys, yes, you can always influence them, but for them, they will be sharing you in their formats. It could be EDI, it could be a JSON, it could be an email, or it could be a PDF format. The confirmation means like, say you have a purchase order and you have confirmation on the date and the price, and you are just pulling that information, validating and processing it automatically. Inspection report, again, very essential ones, which again are document based. Once you do the receipts, you do the inspections. And HR process, lot of work, because lot of documents you take, incoming documents along with the person who is being onboarded. Lot of credentials that you carry, that you expect him. Now each one comes in a different format. Some they send through emails, they zip it and send, they put it in a folder in a cloud, and they share it across. Few take a picture with the image. with their mobile with a better resolution, not better resolution. There are a lot of things, and I'll say like this is a very time-taking activity of streamlining that part. So we have done accomplished this part of it with multiple use cases that we have. Anything, Satish, you want to add here?
Yeah, absolutely. You covered most of the documents which organizations are dealing with.
Yep.
Also can make
So,
use
so
of
the,
kind of
right.
as a KYC kind of under the finance sector.
Correct. KYC. Yep, yep. So
Yeah.
for me, the thing is like from an organization standpoint, if I'm adopting a tool like this, if I have a requirement of tool like this, these are the things like these are the seven or eight things that I really want to understand uh, and very essential for me because otherwise I will be getting into multiple iterations with another vendor or something, right? So for me, how scalable it is, how elastic is it, what are the limitations? Satish.
Yeah, the limitations, some point of time, we don't have any limitations in terms of a PDF kind of a document. So most of the time when you are dealing with the AI and ML and the OCR, we have a small limitations about the resolution of the document when it comes to the image. So a 300 dpi of the resolution is normally preferable. Less than that dpi, your accuracy of the data will be less. So 300 dpi kind of a image document is the only prerequisite which we normally say. Less than that, we will not say it's not possible. Right now, what right now in the market going about the OCR engine, how we can improve in terms of less than 300 or 250 DPI based documents. That's still going on in the market. That's the engines.
Right,
Otherwise, as
right,
a
right,
document
right.
to
So
provide output.
yep, yep. So yep, quickly getting into the features, like as we claim, it has to be the ease of use has to be there. Means like any layman should be able to
Yeah,
configure, and the learning should be there from a new document. For me, if I'm onboarding a new supplier or a new contract that I'm signing, it should be very easy. Uh, Accuracy, yes, the precision of the document has to be there. But further to that, like we can add some rules of validation to increase the level of accuracy. Simultaneously, it should not be limited to one page. It should be able to read multiple pages. That's very essential. The project where we did each invoice, each not invoice, each document was having some 170 pages, and we just had like a nightmare. Actually, it's a couple of years back that we're talking.
yeah, yeah.
Languages, it should support multiple languages. So languages, Satish, what do you talk about the languages?
So when it coming to the languages, we normally support regular English, and apart from that, we support European languages, and even we support Chinese languages, traditional Chinese language, and everything. Approximately around 16 languages in the market which we support.
Nice, nice,
And
nice.
another important feature as a part of a language which we are doing it also. Yeah, as you just mentioned about the new feature, the user can choose which language of the document. So one of the point here is if you are from a different country and you purchase the tool, and a country can be having English documents and a country can be having the European language documents. So depends on the login, he can choose the language and he can just proceed further.
Nice, nice, nice. That's a good this thing like because you don't have to get into that part. Like, I need to find a local. Like globalization is everywhere, and you need to
Exactly.
have go with that. The other part that we got into is like the digital signatures, like which we found that the validation is very essential, and you have to put a signature that it has been validated. It can be talked about or looked at multiple purposes, but a signature is a very essential part of the validation that we look at. Archival, very essential again, because what happens after the documents are read? So that's again the aftermath of the documentation, right?
Absolutely.
So,
So we deal with the archiving in multiple ways. One is as a part of the tool. and other one is we have a lot of archiving tools availabilities in the market. It all depends on how we are going to integrate the tool which we want to maintain the archiving procedures.
So Satish, we have one question like how to identify duplicate documents.
In terms of a duplicate documents, is it we need to understand, is it the name file is a duplicate or the content of the file is a duplicate? Based on that we deal with.
Yeah. So putting it in a more structured format, I'll say like if a document comes in, unless you read the credentials, I'll say the metadata or the content of the document, you cannot identify it's a duplicate. So once you identify that part,
Absolutely.
it's readable. Obviously, you need to have that the mode, the validation should be there to actually to identify whether it's a duplicate or not. Yep. So any questions,
Absolutely.
please do
One
share.
process. Yeah.
Yep, please do
I'm just
share
taking quick.
your questions here. We will take them up. So Satish, like what we are planning for is, I think we don't have many questions, but yes, we are looking at like organizing a small tool demo. How exactly it looks like, the whatever we talked about, we should be able to showcase and say like how do we claim it's a DIY, right? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. As
right.
you have seen, definitely how the tool works. Definitely, we'll have a next session how the tool works. How we'll definitely have a plan, and we one more session on the tool as a live
Right,
demo
right. We
on
have
the
one more
documents.
question.
Will
Yep. So we have like scalability. Satish,
Yeah, the
how
scalability
scalable
in terms of
is the tool?
yeah, I hope I'm audible. So the scalability
Yeah,
is
yeah.
in terms of the architecture or the hardware or how exactly you are going to deal with. We just wanted to understand a little bit more about the scalability. It can be thousands of documents to read at a point of a time is one point of a scalability point. It can be, can I read it from the multiple places the documents at certain point of time? Yes, it is scalable in such a that way also. So, can you give it a little bit more elaborate about how you are looking about the scalability? If you want to read multiple documents at certain point of time, yes, the answer is yes for that also.
Right. I think we are done with the questions, Satish. Thank you all for joining in for this another
Thank you, Kartik.
session of
Thanks for arranging
for
this session.
digitization. Thanks, Satish. Okay, we have
Thank
one
you,
more
Kartik.
question.
Thank you for
Multiple
yeah,
documents
absolutely.
simultaneously.
Yeah, absolutely. When you want to process the multiple documents in parallel, that's what when you have a multiple files and in certain point of a time, if you want to process, absolutely this works. We can process multiple documents simultaneously.
It should
The
be
answer
yes.
is
Like
yes for
ideally, yes. Like when the load is high, you need to have that feasibility of doing that multi-tenant concept of parallel run and processing all the documents. And yes, it all depends upon like the load balancing that we do. So that's also a part of
absolutely, Kartik.
essential feature of this thing. Right, right.
Yeah, absolutely,
Great.
Kartik. You just mentioned we maintained about the documents to process in parallel, which resolves the scalability of multiple documents at certain point of time.
Great, great. Thanks, Satish. Thanks for your time. We'll connect again.
Thank you, Kartik. Thanks for your time. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
arranging
Thank
this
you
call.
all and
Thank you,
for joining us. Thank you. Bye.
thank you all.